Hello there and welcome back to another episode of Starcrossed. I'm your host, Astrologer Meghan Rose. And this week we are going to be talking about something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and that is the understanding of the seventh house by way of your rising sign. So in astrology, when we go a little bit deeper than the signs and the planets, we get into the house systems. And houses in astrology really help us to better understand where the planets are placed in our birth chart and how they are impacting the themes of our lives. So at some point, we will probably have an episode all about all of the different houses. And if you're not currently a subscriber to the Starcrossed newsletter, that is a great resource. I already have a master article written about all of the houses. If you want to go and check that out, it is an incredible resource to use. But the information that I have for you today about the seventh house is so we can understand long-term commitments and relationships, aka the understanding of our dating type or the people that we will most likely find ourselves attracted to, the people that complement our lives and are capable of sticking around us for a long period of time. As a Virgo, my meticulous or particular nature is not always everyone's cup of tea. At 30, I can finally admit that, but it is better for me to understand what types of relational dynamics do work well for me based on my birth chart. And the way that I want to help you be able to do this is to utilize your rising sign to understand the opposite house, which is the seventh house. So in our birth chart, our rising sign is also called our ascendant line. And that same axis follows over to the opposite side of our circular birth chart, that wheel, and it turns into our descendant line. So the rising sign in astrology is the zodiac sign that was ascending, aka the ascendant line, or rising, aka the rising sign, on the eastern horizon at the time that we were born. And this is why astrologers like myself find it to be so useful to know the exact time of your birth, because this sign, the sign that's rising in the sky over the eastern horizon at the time that you are born, changes every 2 hours. So I'm not here to say that your rising sign is the most important part of your birth chart, but I would be remiss to tell you that it wasn't an important aspect to who you are, and plays a really vital role in not only how you show up in the world. Some people will call the rising sign the mask that you wear out into the world. I don't particularly subscribe to that description, but your rising sign begins the house system in your birth chart. And the first house in your birth chart talks about your physical appearance, your sense of confidence, and also the first impression that you're making on other people. So it does play a vital role, because we can't negate the fact that some people are rapid firing with discernment to say whether or not they feel attracted to, connected to, intrigued by, or comfortable around other people based on the first impression that you make. Again, the first impression that you make isn't everything, but it is something. So the rising sign dictates a lot about who we are as a person, how we are perceived out into the world, and it's a great starter to understand yourself when you go out there. When we apply this to romance and connections and long-term commitments, you might be thinking, okay, well, the first impression that I make on someone isn't everything. It's not all of who I'm going to be in my long-term commitments or relationships, and that is a completely true fact. It is not all of who you are, but there is an importance and a reason that it's so common to hear when you're talking to a couple the question, well, how did you two meet? And I can almost always, with like a 95% accuracy, tie back the combination of two people's rising signs to something that was going on when they first met one another. Even to understand how the other person perceived the opposite party in the relationship. Like for someone to be like, oh, well, she just felt so cold and aloof, but that's not at all who she is. And we ended up dancing and having the best time for the rest of the night. And then come to find out that the person that they were talking about was a Capricorn Rising. And it just makes you laugh to yourself after you start to learn more and more about astrology and these different parts of your birth chart or other people's birth charts, because there is a story to be told in there. So what I wanted to bring to you today is find or understand your rising sign to then find and understand the type of relationship that you should be looking for when we look at the light aspects of the signs that could rule your seventh house. So we'll start off with Aries risings. I know, they're always first, but hopefully you'll find everything pretty quick to get through if you know where you fall between Aries and Pisces. But I just did a series about this on TikTok and jokingly brought this up as why you're dating losers based on your rising sign. And it's a low blow, it's a hook, it's a way to get people interested. But the reason that I bring up the seventh house and the sign that rules over it and understanding the type of partnership that you would get along really well with when you look at the light aspects is because every zodiac sign has both light and shadowy aspects. Aligned and misaligned aspects is probably a better way to put that too. So if you are an Aries rising, I want you to understand the impression that you make on other people. Again, this does not mean who you are. This is most likely how you are getting perceived by the world around you. If you can show up as the light aspect of your rising sign, there is a much higher chance that you are going to attract the light or aligned aspects of your seventh house. And we'll get deeper into this in another episode because I do believe that the ruling planet of your seventh house, the sign that rules over your seventh house, plays a better part in the partner, or maybe even where you will meet that person. But stick with me for this episode. This is quick fire information for you to understand how you show up and how to attract the light aspects of your seventh house. Aries rising. You knock people off of their feet. There is a presence that comes from an Aries rising person that is so authentic and pure and curious about the rest of the world and quick-witted and fun to be around. You guys thrive in physical aspects. So going on runs, bowling, even getting involved with like competitive video gaming online. There's something about you guys that is so deeply invested in understanding that life is better when it is a competition. And in order for you to find sustainable partnership, it's important to understand that your seventh house, using whole house sign astrology, is someone who brings a level of balance and peace to the rest of your world. Someone that allows you to have your independent streak without wanting to take it away, but to really bring you a sense of beauty and an oasis that you can always come home to. Someone who trusts that your ability to compete means that they never have to compete for your attention. And if that is the case, that they're happy to do so. Libra ruling over your seventh house brings a dynamic of softening with the right person. When you found someone that you can love and trust for a long time, you're no longer afraid of it not being a good time. This is someone who teaches you how to find peace in mind, body, heart, and spirit, and compliments you in a way that you are not naturally skilled at, which is gentle love. You might be attracted to people who are a catch or may seem like a trophy husband or wife or partner. But for you, the actual benefit of being with that person is that their inner world is so much more beautiful than what anybody else gets to see or experience off of walking by that person simply. You do well when you are with someone who doesn't need to compete for the spotlight, but allows you to shine even brighter by being the fan to your flames. For a Taurus rising, and I speak this out being a Taurus rising, so stick with me. I am still in the pursuit of my long-term partner. I have Jupiter in my 7th house, and one of my mentors told me at one point she is an 86-year-old now, single, also has Jupiter in her 7th house, so take this with a grain of salt. This may be you if you also have your Jupiter placement there. But she told me you will have many deep partnerships, and most of those partnerships alone would be deeper and more beautiful than a majority of the relationships that you see out in the world, but that it is very rare for them to last a lifetime. And I said, I do not claim that. But if she's right and that's the way that my love life is going to go, then so be it. But back to being a Taurus rising, our 7th house in whole sign house astrology is ruled over by Scorpio. So as a Taurus rising, when you are in your most authentic expression of self, you embrace your desire for luxury, for the finer things in life, for a life that is more comfortable and pleasurable than most. You are perceived by other people as grounded, earthly. There is an aspect of Mother Earth that exists within a Taurus rising person, and a sensual nature, as your ruler is going to be Venus. So that Venusian quality that comes over you, you are perceived as not just aesthetically pleasing and beautiful physically, but there is a beautiful nature to you when you go out into the world. So finding yourself being complimented by others and gaining the attention of others in simple passerby moments because you make a sensual and lovely first impression on others. What you have to understand is that if you are capable of embracing that, of wearing the accessories, of indulging in the finer things in life, of allowing yourself to be viewed in this god or goddess-like way, and not hiding it, not downplaying it, you are so much more likely to attract your long-term partner because you're no longer trying to be this masterpiece that is cosplaying as a bin of trash. It's important for you to understand that even if the people closest to you deem you to be materialistic or spoiled or self-indulgent, that part of who you are at your core, your confidence is built out of embracing your Venusian qualities. So for Taurus risings, the first impression that you make when you are in alignment is kind of an inner matched with outer beauty. It's important for you to see yourself in that light in order for other people to see you in an aligned way, to know that you are in your authentic truth. Your long-term committed relationships, your 7th house being ruled over by Scorpio, it is important for you to commit to someone who has the capacity to hold your depth. If most of the general population is thinking of you in this very vapid, beautiful, shallow way, the long-term committed partner that is going to work best for you is the person that truly sees and honors and encourages your intensity, your depth, your passion to come alive in the safety of a committed and devoted relationship. Most of the Taurus rising people that I see in happy long-term relationships, and whether that be romantic or a business partnership or a long-term friendship or friend group, it's people who not only know that they have such a deep inner world, but they work with that Taurus rising person to bring it out of them. They encourage it. They ask insightful questions. They're taking note of what the Taurus rising person thinks and likes and dislikes and feels and emotes to and gets aggravated by. It is Scorpionic in its nature, meaning that it knows every fine-tuned detail of the Taurus rising person, and also knows, with Taurus being ruled by Venus, that there is a deeply passionate, sexual, sensual element to the Taurus rising person. So it doesn't mean, when we go over these, that whatever opposite sign to your rising, so the 7th house sign, it doesn't mean that the person that you end up with has to have placements of that sign. It doesn't mean that a Taurus rising person has to end up with a Scorpio or someone with Scorpio placements. But it does mean that they do well with people who inherently have Scorpionic traits. Someone who is deep, who is calculated, who is devoted, who is committed, who is passionate, because it's complementing the energy that the other person begins their whole house system off of, the way that that person is perceived in the world, what makes that person confident. And in this example, it's Taurus rising. That's the Taurus energy makes that person confident. It's what other people see, but what makes them feel understood is the Scorpio energy. So then we get into Gemini. So a Gemini rising is going to have a Sagittarius 7th house. The Gemini rising person, when they show up out into the world in an aligned way, they are charming. They are intelligent. They are curious. They are adaptable, quick-witted, funny, curious. They are lightning quick. They're moving through the world with an air of effortlessness. And it's enticing to see someone who can shape shift and chameleon to any of the experiences that they are going through. But it's also really easy to lose sight of that person. With Gemini risings, I always think of the magic trick where the performer will put a cup underneath one of 3 cups and start to shift the cups around the table. And then it's the viewer who has to choose where the ball is, where that original cup that had the ball underneath it has landed on the table after being shuffled around so many times. It is so easy for Gemini risings to keep people's attention, but it is not very easy for them to be held or captured or actually understood. There is an energy of entertaining that is fully expressed and understood in the partnerships that they commit to if they find someone who embraces the Sagittarius energy that rules over their 7th house. I think of Sagittarius energy as more of an entertainer than Gemini, but in a different way. If you as a Gemini rising person are choosing an aligned long-term partnership that has this light aspect of Sagittarius energy, to me that would look like someone humorous, someone confident, someone brash, someone who is protective, someone who is curious about learning, spiritually attuned, whether that be through religious ventures or spirituality or beliefs and practices that they have, and someone who can really work to keep the Gemini rising person grounded in where all of that fast-moving energy is going. Because Sagittarius is the archer, we have to think that precision plays a really big part in what means something to a Sagittarius person. So the right long-term committed partnership for a Gemini rising would be someone who can take all of their power, especially their intellectual power, take their ideas, take their passions, and bring some sort of concentrated power or precision to where the Gemini rising person's energy can go. They bring a path to the mental quickness, the ever-flowing thoughts and ideas of a Gemini person, and they bring it to action. They allow for the boots to hit the ground and for one foot to go in front of the other until it is a full-barreled sprint towards actualization and materialization of those ideas. I think about the pairing, the proper pairing for a Gemini rising person, and it's someone who has consistency down to a T and fuels the passion behind the ideas of that Gemini rising person. Because to be with someone who just listens, or someone who doesn't even do that, like can't make space and see beyond the horizons and help them to take action, to me is such a waste of a partnership for a Gemini rising. Gemini risings do well alone, but not for long. They are chatty, connective, communicative people who need that person that can just gab with them for hours. But it's even better for them to find someone who can gab for hours and also bring a plan and purpose to the ideas. So for Gemini risings, again, it doesn't need to be someone with Sagittarius placements, although that would be incredible synastry for you. But it does need to be someone who can bring that Sagittarian thirst for more, the adventure towards actualization to life for the Gemini rising person, to get them out of their heads and into their purpose. To me, it's just a phenomenal partnership that can take something incredible into something legendary. And the next rising sign after Gemini rising, we have Cancer rising. So for Cancer rising people, when they are in alignment, they're going out into the world and the first impression that they are making is soft, it's gentle, it's intuitive, it is tapped in to its emotional center, it's heart-centric. there is such an outpouring of love from these people when they are out of their crab shell. But what we have to understand is that if these people have been deeply hurt or traumatized by wanting to connect with others, they definitely have that shell that they can revert back into, and they have those pincer claws that will come over and dig if you get too close too fast. So I wouldn't necessarily say that these are the type of people that you know so much about right off the bat, but that if they're walking in their power and they're living an authentic reality, they are warm and gentle and soft, and they make you feel at home. There is a sense of familial connection when you are relating to a Cancer rising pretty much right off the bat. And again, this is if they are in alignment. The opposite sign for them, the sign that will rule over their 7th house, is Capricorn. So they do best long-term with people who can take their very dreamy, intuitive, watery, emotional being and create a vase for that watery self to exist within. It is important that that vase is big enough, sturdy enough, and it's shaped properly. So what this will look like, a long-term partnership with the right people, the right person, is someone who brings added value to their life and existence. Cancer risings can, when they are kind of in their softness and they're open, tend to be the taker in the relationship with someone who can provide. So they do really well with partners or friends or business partners that there's not so much of that tit for tat scoreboarding with. Because what the Cancer rising person will end up giving to the relationship dynamics is safety, a gentleness that the other people may not receive anywhere else, kind of mothering tendencies. So the ability to teach or instill lessons and wiseness into, but they do well with people who can provide, who may be really good gift givers or financially supportive of them. Just bringing a sense of structure into the life of the Cancer rising person. It's important for them to be in dynamics, long-term dynamics that allow them to be fluid and free. So having Capricorn rule over their 7th house to me tells the story of relating really well with people who are discerning, people who are not just open and willy-nilly and giving their time and attention to everyone. There's really this secular nature to how that type of love is being given just to the Cancer rising person. There may also be kind of like a coldness or a shield, like being with a partner who is extremely protective or slightly domineering on the outside. And, you know, I think there's no shame in the game, but I do think that Cancer rising people eventually like to be with people who have that kind of like daddy energy. Like it's a very like mommy daddy axis to be playing on. So even if they forgo having children of their own, there really is this relational dynamic between Cancer rising and the partner that they choose with a Capricorn 7th house that feels like the friends that you hang out with. And you're like, oh, mom and dad, like they just have it together. They have a complementary dynamic that bleeds itself into creating a home within their long-term relationships. It's beautiful. And the next is Leo risings. So Leo risings, the first impression that they make on other people, of course, those gorgeous, lustrous manes. And if they're bald, they still have a shiny head. It's like there is just such a bright, powerful energy that radiates off of their headspace. They're Their face is like the sun. Their skin and their hair is typically just, it captures the attention. They are inherently warm, beautiful people. It's very, very difficult to find a Leo rising and not be shocked by their beauty, and the way that they radiate love and light to other people, even if they're not love and light people. It's also, too, that they can come off much more confident than they even feel. So Leo risings have this tendency of being very self-assured and can even come off with kind of like a brute force, like getting a sunburn, you know what I mean? Like the sun is bright, the sun is powerful. And if people are not properly SPF'd, you can definitely get burned by a Leo rising. And they're also pack animals. Leo placements enjoy not only being the leader, but being the leader of a pack. So you'll tend to find these people, even if they don't live or connect with their blood family, that they start to create friend groups or dynamics that make them feel almost like a herding dog, like that they have purpose with a group that they can lead. And to give you an understanding of the type of healthy aligned partnership that does really well for them, their seventh house is ruled over by Aquarius, and they are the performers that do really well with observers. Aquarius energy is deeply understanding. It is fixed air energy. So it is solid in its ability to ideate and process information. To me, it's like the Leo rising person up on the center stage and the Aquarius or Aquarian trait partner that they do really well with sitting front row and watching every step that they make across the stage, listening to how the orchestra is playing, seeing how the lights are shining onto that person, and then able and capable of giving them loving notes after the performance has concluded. They love to bask in the light of their Leo rising person. So for Leo risings, it is extremely important to find someone who feels secure and confident enough to watch you shine out into the world. Not someone who is insecure, projecting, trying to cut you down, making comments that make you feel small. This is the person that is happy to lather up all over so they don't get burned while sitting in as close proximity as humanly possible to that sun. You need a partner that is your biggest cheerleader. And it doesn't mean that they need to be a golden retriever to your black cat. Like in some way, it's like they break down all of the constructs of what a relationship is supposed to be like. Aquarius is eccentric for a reason. It likes to think outside of the box. I don't typically see Leo rising people in traditional relationship patterns. These are not people that are living some bored story about how they met their person or the dynamic that them and their person have. This is like someone who's able to have a long distance relationship or able to have the type of relationship where they say, well, it might not work for everyone, but it works for us. That Leo Aquarius axis, it loves more than anything to be true to itself in a way that doesn't take other people's opinions into consideration. Leo and Aquarius. And again, for a Leo rising, you might fall in love with someone who is just like this, but doesn't have any Aquarius placements. And that's always why I like to say to people, take astrological compatibility on the nose. It's less about you finding someone with the exact right signs in their birth chart and more about you understanding your birth chart and finding someone with the traits and the qualities that are being described in the story of your birth chart. So Leo rising people do well with people who embody the eccentricism, observational qualities, security, intelligence, and wherewithal of their Aquarius 7th house that says, we've found a relationship that works for us before it works for anyone else. It's not uncommon too to see people with a Leo rising marrying someone later on, especially because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. So like to have that Saturn influence over your 7th house, to me, it's like commitment and longevity, yes, but it comes at the right time, not when you want it and not when you're forcing it. It comes exactly when you were primed and ready to get involved with that karmic bond, that Saturnian, lesson-filled, structured bond that works so perfectly for you and was absolutely worth the wait. The next rising sign that I want to go over is Virgo rising. So for a Virgo rising, it is not uncommon to find these people with the most stunning eyeglasses or like slicked back hair or pulling off the office siren look. Like they embody the very studious, martyr, virgin energy of Virgo in the first impression that they make on other people. It's not uncommon to find prudish Virgo rising people as well. So someone who is, wearing a sweater with a high neckline or putting a cardigan or a blazer over their, tank top. It's very virginal in the sense that when people first meet you, they know that you take yourself and your reputation seriously. They typically have incredible bone structure as well. So you'll see like a prominent angular nose, angular jaw, high cheekbones. I typically with these people too, will see like either a wide or a tall forehead, just so they can let you know off bat that they're intelligent. They love to be quick-witted and know-it-alls in a way. Like Virgo rising people know it all. They know the dictionary from front to back. They know all of the facts about their favorite things. They hyperfixate on something, and it doesn't always need to be an intellectual pursuit, right? Like it could be that you know everything about pop culture, or you know everything about the neighborhood that you live in, and you know everybody's gossip. And, like that is the prudish private part of Virgo to me, that you finally see the secret freak. Like they are obsessive over the things and people and themes that they love and enjoy. I also tend to see these people with a really stacked playlist, or like they just know everything about the artists that they like. You can catch them at concerts or, hosting their own concert in their bedroom. Like they know it all about what they want to know. And the opposite energy to that rules over their 7th house of partnerships is Pisces. So as much as they have this very kind of logical, mercurial, know-it-all energy that they come off in their first impression with, the way that they want to be loved on is so dreamy and ethereal and poetic and romantic. Like I've never met a Virgo rising that once you actually got to know them and they have opened up and they have been honest and not perfect, like catch them after a couple of drinks and they're going to be crying in the bathroom about how they just want someone to show up at their doorstep with 100 roses and their favorite song blaring on a jukebox. Like they love love for the sake of love. And as an example, my mom is actually a Virgo rising, and she is married to her high school sweetheart. Like, I know Virgo risings that are perpetually single, but it's like all they talk about is love. There's just such a cornerstone aspect to these people and their hearts that wants someone that can soften their hard edges. And it makes so much sense as to why their first impression and their physical attributes are so angular and rigid, because it's almost like the moat around their castle. Like, they're testing people and saying, if you really loved me, you would try. If you really loved me, you would just, cut your bleeding heart out and hand it to me on a silver platter. It's very dramatic. That Pisces energy ruling over their seventh house is drama and depth and emotion and sensitivity and romance and poetry and pleasure. It's big and it's expansive and it's so rom-com. And I think for these people to really commit for a long period of time, there has to be some air of soulmate interwoven with the relational dynamic that they eventually choose. And this can lead to deception or wearing the rose-colored goggles. So it's important for my Virgo rising people to understand, like, it is a known fact for Pisces placements, or like the traits of Pisces, to be warped and kind of go off the deep end. Like, I'm pretty sure somebody did a deep dive into, like, your most toxic ex has Pisces traits or has Pisces placements. And it was like Justin Bieber, Tristan Thompson. I think they put Scott Disick on there too. But like, Kurt Cobain was a Pisces. It's like, you have to think, if that energy is off of its leash, it's running wild. And it's so important for these people to understand that the aligned version of their seventh house can look a lot like the misaligned version of their seventh house, and that they have to take those goggles off from time to time and realize, am I being fed what I want to hear, or is what I actually want present for me in this connection? Because they look so similar. That is a very, very thin line for Virgo rising people to dance with the partnerships that they dive into or commit to. Is like, is this the light attributes of my Pisces seventh house, or is this the manipulative tactics that can come from Pisces energy? For Libra risings, so funny. My mom is a Virgo rising and my dad is a Libra rising. So they're right next to each other, and tend to go through a lot of transits at the same time, probably hence that long-term relationship that's lasted like more than 40 years now. And don't ever say that people whose parents are still together can't be funny, because have you watched? But a Libra rising, to me, you show up in this beautiful, almost angelic way. Like, people leave your presence and they're wondering whether they just saw a human or some sort of avatar from a far off distant land. It is such an aesthetically pleasing placement to have, like piercing eyes, or like very clear skin, just like really well done hair, or a incredible smile. Like, the things that people initially see of a Libra rising, it's striking. Like, if you have a really prominent nose, even if you don't love it, it's like everybody else loves it. Or you have really thick, beautiful, bushy brows, and it's like maybe you don't love that and you're plucking them at home, but people are leaving your presence and, on call, like, can I get hair plugs in my eyebrows? Like, you are the blueprint for other people. And it's very, very easy for Libra rising people to be put on a pedestal, kind of like that manic pixie dream girl theme that happens with Libra risings, where you have to be careful of how many moths are attracted to your flame, and realizing that your seventh house is ruled by Aries. And it's like, I don't want a moth, I want a flame. Like, you're already hot. You need someone to match that. But like, Libra rising is air. It's Venusian. It's not fire, but someone to match your fire with Aries ruling over your seventh house. And what that would look like for me in an ideal relationship for you guys would be someone who is very bold, very brash, very loud about how much they love you, very committed to you, but also someone who allows you to have independence. It's easy for Libra rising people to get into codependent dynamics or get caught up in the validation that they're receiving from other people without any substance. I see the long-term relationships that work out for Libra rising people being the ones where their independence is honored and encouraged. And it helps you to grow into a secure person who has interdependent relationships rather than codependent relationships. And that might look like finding someone who is also independent and doing their own thing. Like, they teach you independence by not being fully invested in just you. They have more to talk about, more to do, more that they're interested in than just you as an idolized, epitomized partner. And that's what is really going to draw you to the right person. Yes, you get a lot of attention, but who is the person that doesn't want to put all of their eggs into your basket? And that's really going to be the person that captures your heart. You capture so many people's attention, but there's such a select few people that can actually capture your heart as a Libra rising. And like I said, the more independent that the two of you can run side by side rather than interweaving with one another, the better for the long-term commitments. And again, whether that is romantic, business, friend-wise, roommate, like anyone that you're signing contracts and signing part of your life away to, it's important for them to run on the track of independence alongside you, and to honor the fact that you are somewhat of the calm in their storm. So you might end up with someone who is a little more chaotic, like doesn't really have all of their shit together, but is boldly and honestly themselves. And that encourages you to kind of step in and play a role within the dynamic. But again, you are each teaching each other independence by being together in the right way. I hope that makes sense. It's so clear in my head, but I really hope that translates. For my Scorpio rising people, you show up in the world when you are fully expressed, and it is intense. That glare, the eye contact, the outfits, the oozing sexuality, the passion that you have for who and what you love, it is palpable and it is deep. And there is so much to be said about who you are as a partner that is just textbook depth and devotion. But I think the best people for you guys to go through life with Taurus ruling over your seventh house, are people who are stable, secure, structured. They live life with pleasure first rather than pain and passion. They bring a softness to you. So you have that harsh glare and that thing that intimidates other people. And these people are like, oh, I didn't even realize you were trying to intimidate me. They see through the facade that you have, and they bring a level of softness to not only your identity and how you show up in the world, but really your heart, and understanding that you don't have to go through challenges and pain and tumultuousness and chaos in order to feel something. And they remind you that life does not need to be difficult in order to be valuable. You could also end up with someone, because Taurus is ruled by Venus, that is very aesthetically pleasing, does something with their appearance. So whether that's modeling, acting, designing, decorating, just creating art, there's something about the person that you end up with that you almost realize that it's not all about money and fame and fortune and power and getting ahead. It's like they let you soften even the lens and the perspective that you look at your own life through just by being with them. The right person for a Scorpio rising is going to be someone that embodies that loyal, stable, devoted, Venusian, soft, gentle, loving nature of Taurus, whether or not they have Taurus placements. Sagittarius rising. You guys with Jupiter as your natural ruler have a very larger than life persona. That's your first impression. It is gassy and humorous. Like when I think of Jupiter as this big gaseous planet, and then I think about Sagittarius risings, it's like you guys need more. You have an insatiable need for learning, for traveling, for eating, for culture, for spiritual practice and belief and change. It's powerful and it's fast. And this is where we start to get into looking back at the opposing energies. So we already went over Gemini rising and having a Sagittarius 7th house. But when it's a Sagittarius rising with a Gemini 7th house, then we get to call back in you guys needing someone who can maybe help you understand that it's less about more, running faster, doing more, learning more, getting bigger, getting better, having more understanding of the world, and maybe finding it exciting to just meet a new person in town, or to have a silly conversation with somebody that you've known for a few years, or do things that aren't so purpose-driven to the point that you're losing sight of the present moment and the present version of yourself. Someone who is so quick and childlike and witty and maybe even like deprecating, where they don't take themselves so seriously that they lose sight of the present moment. This is someone that brings you back to the microcosm of it all, the small moments, the silly, quick-moving, adaptable conversations, and realize, like, I don't need to be Gandhi in order to feel proud of myself. I don't need to make everyone laugh in order to know that I'm funny. It's like they bring you back down. I almost get the image of like throwing clay on a pottery wheel. And it's like if your whole vase breaks just from making one wrong movement with your fingers at the very end of the process, that you're okay to just smash all of it back together and throw it on there again and start from scratch. You don't need to be the teacher. You don't need to be the wisest person in order to feel valuable. And this partnership brings you back down to how silly titles and accolades are, because you'll be with a person that is undefinable. after that, we have Capricorn risings. So you guys come off in this way that is wise. People might have mistakenly thought that you were older than you were as a child, but as you grow older, people start to think that you're much younger than you are. It's really this Benjamin Button effect that Capricorn rising people have over their lives. And what I see is a kind of undefinable age quality about them. You could be in age gap relationships or not start dating until you're older or have a very serious relationship at a young age that lasts for most of your life. It's almost like your relationship to relationships doesn't necessarily make sense for the age that you're at. Like, it's very uncommon to find a Capricorn rising person who started dating someone at 28, gets married at 30, has their first kid at 32, lives with a white picket fence. Like, they have kind of a what is time is an illusion concept to relationships that's really powerful when they find the right person. Again, if we're going over first impressions too, like very beautiful structured features, typically playing off wearing neutral tones. So like browns, blacks, whites, grays, timeless pieces. They have heirloom pieces that even if they don't have kids, you're like, damn, those would have been incredible to pass on generation after generation. And with Cancer ruling over their 7th house, it's like they do well with a gentle love, with a safe love, with a partner who softens them and makes them understand that it is safe to feel their big emotions and that they have emotions to share, that they have creative interests that they should explore, that they have a heart. And with Cancer ruling over their 7th house, again, it's not necessarily ending up with a Cancer, but ending up with someone who is intuitive and insightful and likes to connect with them in ways that are safe, consistent, and have a motherly quality to them where they never have to doubt if their partner loves them. There's a tendency with Cancer or Capricorn rising people to engage in toxic dynamics until they're ready. And this could be subconscious. This could be a self-sabotaging subconscious habit that happens. But until they are really ready to commit, they will pick people that they know innately are not right for them. And again, that's just the way Capricorn risings are ruled by Saturn. A lot of their life in regards to relationships is lessons. It is karma. And if they are able to let themselves free of those habits quick, they can find the right person even quicker, but they will date the wrong people to avoid that loving, motherly, gentle, committed, consistent, present partner until their heart is actually ready to settle down. And after Capricorn risings, we have Aquarius risings. So for Aquarius rising people, I have never met an Aquarius rising person who wasn't a trendsetter, wasn't way ahead of the game, like knew who they were at a young age, but was capable of redefining themselves over and over and over again, with a deep sense of confidence. And they know how to get other people's attention, but they're such elusive people. These are the types of people that garner the attention of a celebrity or somebody who lives in a different state or somebody that they meet on vacation that they're never going to see again. It's like they have such an exotic, eccentric vibe about them that translates not only in the way that they look and the way that they dress, but the way that they approach life. And it's never you're never going to be able to predict it ahead of time. So if you are in a relationship or long-term friends or business partners with an Aquarius rising, you really never know who's going to show up. And that's part of what they want and what they enjoy, is like keeping people on their toes. However, the type of partner that they typically like and like to be with is someone who has those Leo 7th house qualities, is very wealthy or very loud or very charismatic, or could be famous or a performer, could be creative in their career or their approach to life, very aesthetically pleasing. I have never met an Aquarius rising who wasn't like, yeah, my partner is really hot. And that is something that they tout. But it's also someone who leads the pack and leads that Aquarius rising person into maybe a more secure, connected version of life than they would have been living had they not found that person. So they're happy to be independent and off on their own until they find their right partner. But the right partner for them will herd them in the direction of family and security and something that is more traditional than the life that they lived prior to being in that partnership. And my final pairing of rising in 7th house is a Pisces rising. These people are dreamy. There's no better way for me to say this than they're like a fairy. They're like storybook characters, and they live life when they are in their authentic truth in a way that is so fluid and gentle and sensitive and artistic and romantic that they almost lose sight of what is real and what is something that they've been dreaming about or yearning after. It's like you could see these people disassociating for hours, playing video games or watching rom-coms or journaling or meditating or going to sound baths or, pulling tarot cards with their friends. It's like and it's also one of the rarest rising signs. So it's like they truly are one of a kind. And with their 7th house being ruled over by Virgo, they do really well being kind of like the kite flying in the wind when they are attached to a very sturdy, secure, earthly Virgo trait rock on the ground that keeps the string that connects to their kite taut, and they never fly away, but they fly. Their partner, their perfect partner, would be someone who is organized, calculated, analytical, a good planner, someone who is connected to their path and their purpose, someone who is prude in their approach to life and saves who they truly are for the private moments with their Pisces rising partner. It is someone who honors that keeping a relationship private is protected, but it's never hidden. They love to see their Pisces rising partner flying and being amongst the clouds and enjoying their time on this planet without ever holding them back, but always securing them softly to the ground. So if you are a Pisces rising and you notice that you're getting caught up in toxic, overindulgent, manipulative relationship dynamics, you definitely haven't found the complementary partner that is keeping you structured and grounded. You've maybe found someone that likes to rile you up for the reaction, but it's important for Pisces rising people to understand that the perfect partner for them long-term is going to be the person that brings structure and security and healthy love into their lives. So I hope that this episode makes sense and it resonates for those of you that are looking to better understand how you can show up in the world to attract the type of partner that is actually good for you long term, if that is what you are looking for. As a bare minimum reminder, understand that you can embody the lightest, brightest, most authentic aspects of your rising sign and never be in a relationship, and that is okay. But if you are someone that enjoys partnership, romantic, business, otherwise, for the long haul with other people, I hope that the traits that we shared today on Starcrossed can be helpful to you in your process of knowing yourself, meeting other people, and honoring the type of world that you actually want to build for yourself going forward. So if you're not already subscribed to the Starcrossed newsletter, I highly recommend heading over there to get even deeper insights into your rising sign, to the relationship dynamics that you can have with yourself, with others, and the world around you. And hopefully I will see you guys back next week. Be sure to check the show notes for all of those links and information. Leave a comment, a 5-star review. If you liked this, it means the world to me, and it helps me to keep bringing you astrology insights each and every week. So hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye, guys.